G'day and welcome to Inside the Spa Business. My name's Trent Munday and the aim with the show here is pretty simple. My plan each week is to bring you information, advice and insights on a whole range of topics that are in and around and related to the spa and wellness industry. I really do appreciate you taking the time to come on in and have a listen. And if you like what you hear, I'd love it if you head on over to the iTunes store and leave a rating and a comment. I'll reply to every comment we get, of course. And while you're there, you might as well subscribe so that you can keep updated with each new episode. Special thanks to Mick and Carly Simmons over at Spa Sounds for providing the background music that you're going to hear throughout each episode. Smooth, soothing sounds just like that is what you'll get over at spasounds.com.au, where they've got all your spa music needs covered. Pretty much everything from a single digital download to a fully customized collection for your spa. So head on over to spasounds.com.au, tell them Trent sent you, and I know they'll take good care of you. In today's episode, we'll wrap up our little three-part series on evolution with a look at the evolution of hotel spas. And you know, hotel spas really only came into being around about the mid-1990s, so it's only been a little over 20 years. A little fun fact, there was another little concept that came to be around about the mid-1990s. Anybody know what that might be? The consumer internet. Yeah, before the mid-1990s, both of those things didn't really exist, at least as far as the general public was concerned. Now, is there any correlation between the two? No, I don't think so. Just an interesting little fun fact. We'll take a look at the business cycle of the hotel spa industry in relation to the fitness industry. Some of the older listeners amongst you might recall the early days when a spa in a hotel was really just a massage room at the back of a fitness centre. And then we compare that to today when a hotel spa can often win the land grab for prime real estate within a hotel development project. And as we've done in the last few episodes, we'll pull out the crystal ball and see if we can take a look at what the future might hold for hotel spas. Thanks again to the guys over at Spa Sounds for providing our background music throughout each episode. spasounds.com.au. Go over and have a chat to the guys. They've got your spa music needs covered. Everything from a single digital download to a fully customized music solution for your spa. Even if you just want a bit of advice on copyright issues or whatever relating to your spa music, I'm sure Mick and Carly can help you out. spasounds.com.au. Go check them out. Tell them Trent sent you, and I know they'll take good care of you. Thanks again. We really do appreciate their support. Right, so let's get on with the show. Hotel spas, as we know them today, have been around since about the mid-1990s. At that time, I was actually working in the hotel industry in Australia. And I can assure you that way back then, nobody was talking about spas in hotels. Instead, many hotels were still trying to catch up with the fitness trend by installing proper gyms and fitness facilities in their properties. In fact, I recall a specific example where I was preparing the business plan for our hotel in Perth back in 1996. And when I got to the section for the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, where I needed to compare our offering to those of the competitors, I actually had fitness facilities as a strength of ours. And this isn't because we had a particularly good facility. In fact, even by the standards of the day, our fitness facility was pretty average at best. But nonetheless, simply having any sort of fitness facility in a hotel in those days was considered a competitive advantage. Most of our competitive set had no fitness offering at all. Now, as it turned out, our closest competitor and nearest neighbour managed to turn their lack of a fitness facility into a strength. Rather than tell their guests that they didn't have a gym, the hotel promoted the fact that their guests had access to the most extensive fitness facilities in the city. And this wasn't a lie. You see, what they did was partner with a local gym, and that was just a few doors down from the hotel. Any hotel guest wanting to use the gym simply walked 20 metres down the street, where they did indeed have access to the best gym in town. And the hotel even covered the cost of the entry ticket. What is interesting, though, in hindsight, is that while many of these city hotels in the mid to late 1990s were focused on this apparent need for a gym in their property, I'm not really sure there was ever a big demand for it. At least not the sort of demand that meant it was an essential feature of a hotel, one that would result in significant loss of business if it wasn't there. Rather than this demand for a hotel gym coming from the vast masses of corporate travellers, I think it was really more a result of a push from the C-suite, to find hotels with additional facilities for their executives when travelling. It wasn't necessarily a question of would they use it, but it was more a matter of having as many complementary benefits as they possibly could to make their employees supposedly happier and more productive when staying in the hotels on a business trip. And on the supply side, as each hotel added a new fitness facility, each of their competitors became a little less attractive to the corporate travel bookers. In order to stay competitive, hotel after hotel added gym and fitness to their list of complementary offerings, with little to no thought about whether the end user, the hotel guest, actually wanted to use it. So hotels somehow managed to convince themselves that, based on their extensive market research of their customers' wants and needs, both a pool and a gym are now essential. And the problem is that in these surveys, they're asking the wrong question, of course. The question shouldn't be, is a gym an important facility in your hotel of choice? Rather, what they should be asking is, would you not stay in this hotel if we didn't have a gym? No doubt there were, and still are, some guests to whom this is a top priority when selecting a hotel. Just as a good lap pool is an important feature to those guests who need to start their day with a brisk swim. But much like the pool guest, the gym guest is still in the vast minority. And just like pools became a commodity in a hotel, so too did gyms. These days, we just expect to have a gym available when we stay in a 4-star or 5-star hotel, pretty much anywhere. Whether we want to use it or not is a completely different matter. Meanwhile, as city hotels were struggling with their fitness-centered dilemma, some resort spas were starting to explore this new thing called spa. With guests coming to resorts to relax, unwind and indulge, the idea of providing massage, beauty and pampering services seems like an obvious fit, and it was. Massage was the key component of these early spas. Beauty treatments in general were still something that you would go back home to your favourite salon for. Interestingly enough, those beauty salons would soon begin rebranding themselves as spas too. And we'll take a look at that in more detail later in another episode. Now, these early resort spas were a far cry from what we see today. There was no fancy reception and lounge areas, no spacious treatment rooms with steam showers and couples jacuzzi baths and all these things. Most spas back then were made up of little more than a few empty guest rooms side by side, with the hotel beds taken out and replaced with a few massage tables. Those resorts that were a little bit more creative would use a gazebo or a ballet that was already in the gardens and set it up with a massage table, drape some sheer curtains to offer at least some illusion of privacy, and then we call it a spa. Not so long ago, I was having a chat to Tom Gottlieb, who was the founder of Mandara Spa. And when he talks about those early days of the spa concept, he said it just resonated with resort guests immediately. His company went from 0 to 70 spas in just a few short years. And he likened the rapid growth in the business to strapping on a jetpack and just holding on tight. Spas were the new shiny toy, and everybody wanted to play with it. Given that hotel spas are all about pampering and indulgence, it'd be reasonable to assume that they must have come along at a time when the economy was strong and people felt good about their future. But the reality, though, was in the late 1990s, the world had plunged into a global economic downturn. Many refer to this period as the Asian financial crisis, as some of the most dramatic impacts were really felt in the Asian economies like Thailand and Indonesia. But it's probably more accurately described as a Western financial crisis with Asian victims. And of course, that sounds like a global financial crisis to me. That's what we would have called it today. Stock markets were tumbling, economies around the world were collapsing. And hotels obviously felt the pinch of the economic troubles of the day. Occupancies were down, room rates were down, and they just continued to drop rapidly. So from a business perspective, it made perfect sense why they would latch on to any new concept that offered them a chance to make some incremental revenue. And as for the guests, I'm sure there are experts in psychology or sociology who can offer a more scientific explanation. But maybe it was just something as simple as that the spa offered them a little bit of extra indulgence, a bit of an escape at a time when they needed some gentle reassurances that everything would be okay. Of course, seeing the success of the spas in resort hotels, it wasn't long before city hotels jumped on board the spa bandwagon too. And just like resort hotels, many of the early adopters also made use of empty guest rooms to create their first spa experiences. Some of those hotels that had gone all in on the fitness trend already had a room or two as part of the hotel gym, and that was used to offer sports massages to their guests. For a long time, these cramped rooms with the overpowering aroma of menthol was the only option you had if you wanted a massage in a hotel. Hotels had not yet realised that a typical hotel guest was not a finely tuned athlete in need of a deep tissue muscle massage, but rather a non-athlete in need of just some pampering and relaxation. Over the past 20 years or so, we've seen the hotel spa evolve from a tiny room at the back of a gym, or maybe a converted guest room, to what today is, in many cases, a substantial footprint with significant investment. And it's complete with extensive services and facilities. Spas today are in fact often built with the specific goal of becoming the USP of the hotel. And as we'll continue to explore in later episodes, this is a strategy that hasn't always worked out, and it's almost certainly not the way of the future for hotel spas. And there you have it, my thoughts on the evolution of the hotel spa segment. Love to know what you think. Head on over to the iTunes store and leave a comment, and we can have a bit of a talk about it there. While you're there, of course, please subscribe, and please leave a rating if you think it was worthwhile. Even if you don't think it was worthwhile, leave a rating and let me know. As always, the show notes will be published over at trentmonday.com with any useful links and information. There'll also be a link there on how to subscribe and join the show if that's what you'd like to do as well. And in next week's show, I wanted to kind of continue this little theme of evolution and talk a little bit about spas' potential to become lifestyle brands in the future. It's an interesting little concept I thought about and discussed with a few people a while back, so I think you might find that quite interesting. Thanks again to Spa Sounds for being our music sponsor, and I look forward to having you join the show again next week. Bye for now.